You think you already know how to play Loki? This guide isn't about basics. It's about the advanced tech, mind games, and positioning that separates average Lokis from game-winning ones. This guide includes how to control fights before they even start, bait cooldowns, and turning Loki into a constant threat. If you're ready to stop just playing Loki and start outsmarting everyone on the map, this is the guide you've been waiting for. If you're wondering who I am, hi, I'm Cooper, better known as Cooper-tastic, and I've previously competed as a professional player for Flyquest and achieved 3rd place in the grand finals of Ignite and was regarded as the best Loki in the tournament. I also peaked rank 1 in every season and even was the first person to end rank 1 and 2. So don't worry, you have come to the right place. In this video, I will be splitting it into 3 parts: cooldowns, positioning, and ult fights. And throughout each of these concepts, I will be going over beginner tips and advanced theories with reasoning behind each decision. There will also be timestamps below if you want to skip a part or rewatch something. In order to fully understand the power of Loki, it is essential to understanding what his numbers look like. First, Loki's primary fire does 25 damage per cast and 40 healing per cast. With the new Loki buffs, he also does 10 healing per cast with each direct hit. At first glance, this sounds pretty weak, but remember, this is per cast, which means if you have your clones up, you can do a total of 120 healing or 65 damage in one shot. The main reason Loki is so overpowered is because of his spam damage. If your team isn't taking any damage or the enemy team is just walking out, just shoot them, because it will create pressure and aid in building your ult. Next is Loki's doppelganger, but I'm going to refer to them as clones for the duration of this video due to simplicity. This ability has 2 charges with each charge taking 12 seconds. Loki also has the ability Deception, but I like to refer to this as his self-clone. This ability has a 15-second cooldown and makes Loki invisible. The reason I note these cooldown times is to underscore how short these cooldowns are and how you should never be scared to replace clones. Most people will walk up with their team and not place any clones down, which is very harmful to their overall output. Additionally, in order to get the most value on Loki, you should make it your objective to always have 2 clones up. If you only have 1 out of 2 clones down, your overall input is decreased by 33%. Loki also has the ability Devious Exchange, or as I like to call it, TP. This allows you to swap between yourself and a clone, which is incredibly useful against dive and can get you out of sticky situations. Finally, the most important cooldown Loki has are his regeneration domains, or as I like to call them, his lamps. This ability is on a 30-second cooldown, lasts for 5 seconds, and when used, creates an area of immortality for anyone in it and heals 100 health per second. So now that you fully understand the numbers behind Loki, let's move on to more advanced concepts. Positioning on any character is important, but on Loki, that really makes or breaks the character. Not only do you have to have good positioning, but your clones do too. First, let's start with the default Loki positioning. Since Loki is a very spam-heavy character and has high burst potential, high ground should be your #1 priority. On defense, I typically like to play on an angle where both my team and the enemy team will begin fighting, and as the fight progresses, I like to slowly rotate towards main where my team is located. Here's a prime example of good Loki positioning. I start on the high ground and spam the enemy once they walk up, and as the fight goes on, I rotate towards my team because the enemy team starts getting angles on me. Switching to attack is a lot more simple. Really, the only thing you have to do is play main behind your tanks and assist your team when they walk up. Now onto the most important part of Loki's kit: his clones. As we discussed earlier, Loki has an incredibly fast cooldown speed and should always have 2 clones up. When placing down clones, you always want to have an aggressive clone and then a passive clone. The passive clone is usually near where I'm playing, where my other support is, or where my team is hiding, and then the aggressive clone is close up to my tanks. The reason this is so effective is because the aggressive clone allows you to lamp your team forward when wanting to walk, and the passive clone allows you to TP out of danger if you walk up too far with your team, or if you're doof. The main part to master here is the balance of placing aggressive clones and passive clones. Theoretically, let's say your team is being ulted by a Star-Lord ult. If you already have a passive and aggressive clone placed, your whole team is basically safe from the ult when you use lamps. Now there is one problem with this concept of aggressive clones. What if they are getting instantly broken? If that problem occurs, try placing your clones around corners that the enemy team can't see around, or place the aggressive clones in a more passive angle. You don't always have to place it within the LOS of the enemy team. You can instead place it so that once the enemy team walks and starts fighting your team, the clone has LOS and will instantly be broken. I find this most effective in brawl comps with Groot, Bucky, or Phoenix. Another thing you can do is place your clones away from spam angles. Say a team is just spamming down one choke at your team. If you place a Loki clone in that angle, it is just going to get broken instantly. So instead, find a different angle, or even place the clone further back behind your front line to prevent enemies from breaking it. If you have perfect clone placement, you'll pretty much be unable to be first picked. Some people say that Loki is very bad into dive, however I think it's the complete opposite. Loki is insanely good into dive. Since Loki has a TP and invis, he can be really hard to track down and kill. As a Loki player against dive, the best way to live is to listen for sound cues for when you're going to be dove, and most of all just use your eyeballs. You want to be constantly aware of where their DPS are. Additionally, the concept of having a passive Loki clone comes in really handy here, because if you're dove, you have a guaranteed TP into a safe spot. Finally, we have Ult Fights. Ulting with Loki is pretty simple. You really only want to copy supports, and that's pretty much it. The copy priority of supports is Gambit, Mantis, Luna, Sue, Cloak, and finally Rocket. In my opinion, copying Adam, Ultron, and Jeff is never really worth it unless you need to make a hero play and it's your last option. As Loki, you should also be copying first, and then having your other support ult second. Since Loki has so much spam, you can usually build at least 30% to your next ult while your other support is ulting. The perfect timing for when to copy is right as the enemy team uses an offensive ult. In order to prevent yourself from dying while they push, use your lamps, copy, and then support ult. Also, make sure you use all the cooldowns available whenever you copy a support in order to maximize your overall output. Overall, Loki is extremely complex and has one of the highest skill ceilings in Rivals due to his TP and clones, so don't be discouraged at first if you don't understand him. I would say to start with positioning and then learn different interactions once you master positioning. If you ever want to watch some Loki gameplay to see examples of the concepts discussed in this video, I stream almost every day on my Twitch, so feel free to stop by and ask any questions there. With that, I hope you guys have a great day and feel free to comment any questions you have. I'll do my best to reply down there.